is persecution? You run into issues here because it's not defined well in immigration law. We understand what persecution means in our everyday life, but persecution doesn't necessarily mean it has to be physical. It could be persecution just by the system, preventing you from doing things that you want to get done, interfering with your liberties, so to speak. So when you think of being persecuted, you have to think on a wide level and not just on being locked up or someone physically abusing you. Because you can look at the circumstances, like, for example, not practicing your religion. That's another example again. It's a good way that someone can persecute you, right? Without physically doing anything to you. You're growing up in you're Muslim and most of your population in your country is Christian, and you find that while you were there, you're not able to practice, or they persecute you in a certain way where you're not afforded certain opportunities. Though that's persecution, it's just not physical. So try not to think of it as only physical persecution. Think of it as overall circumstances based on your experience. And again, I repeat, it has to be from the government. So it cannot be just from an individual or a family or someone persecuting individually, right? Now, another sticky point that I want to bring up is there has to be a nexus between the persecution that you're encountering and the protected group. So I mentioned all those protected groups: your race, nationality, religion, and so forth. You have to make a nexus and a connection that the persecution you're feeling is as a result of that. And that can be difficult. You have to show that I'm being persecuted because I am Muslim. That is the only reason. If you look at all the circumstances, when I put this in my affidavit, this is what is preventing me and from achieving certain things, and is persecuting me and encroaching on my my liberties. Any questions on these so far? Anyone has any question about the protected grounds, your race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or a particular social group?
No.
Okay.
Tanti, do you have a question? Tanti Fatoumata, do you have a question?
No, I'm good so far.
Q&A anyway. After the presentation, we're gonna do question and answers after.
Okay, no problem. Okay.
Pretty much the legal portion, or the areas that are issue problems for most people to comprehend when it comes to asylum. Now, I will quickly just go through the process, and then we can have some questions. The process, I will speak on the affirmative process, because the defensive is pretty much picks up after you're in removal, and then it pretty much follows the similar timeline. So step one, of course, you have to be in the United States to be an affirmative applicant, right? And again, you have to apply within the 1 year. When you apply, you fill out your I-589, you submit that to USCIS, and they will send you a receipt notice. I think most of us have seen or understand what a receipt notice is, just to tell you that it's been received. Second is you usually will get another notice to do your biometrics. Then once you do your biometrics, you have to wait for them to call you back for an interview. Now, this is the part that is confusing to a lot of people, confusing for even attorneys. How long is the process? It's hard for me to say. I cannot pinpoint and say it's going to be 1 year. It should be, and they aim, according to USCIS, to get everyone interviewed quickly by an immigration officer. But it doesn't happen that way, because they have certain priorities. Their first priority is anyone who had to reschedule an interview. So if 10% of all applicants had to reschedule an interview, they're going to look at those, right? And every week, someone is probably, not probably, is rescheduling an interview, whether it's from USCIS or the person themselves, right? So every week, they're going back to those priority first. Doesn't seem to make sense, but that's how USCIS work, right? After that, there's a second priority of people who have recently applied. So if you recently applied, they're going to start looking at those. And third priority, unfortunately, is if you had applied a long time ago. So if for whatever reason, your application didn't get you in front of an officer quickly, you're going to end up waiting for a long time. And that's why you find people who have applied and they're waiting for years, sometimes 5, 10 years for an interview, because they fall into that third category. That whatever was going on at that point, they did not get to go in front of an officer. But once you go in front of the officer and you get a date, the next step is to prepare your package, prepare your other for the case that you're going to make, and you can submit it a week before you have to see the officer. And that is the part of it that you probably most likely that is the application, that's fine. But it's writing. An attorney that knows how to write well, how to convey a convincing argument, how to tell a story, and make it believable, and then corroborate evidence, because you need to corroborate that all the evidence that you're stating. For example, if you're saying the easy example, the gang, if there were newspaper clippings about this gang, if it's all over the news, right? If you had been in the news at some point, then you can corroborate all that evidence. You can use affidavit. If you have medical records to show that at some point you got abused by this gang and you were in the hospital, and you have records to show, police report. So it's all about corroborating the evidence, and that is when you really need a lawyer. You go into the interview. The lawyer is still limited at the interview, but they can prevent certain lines of questioning. They can ask that certain line of questioning are inappropriate and object to it. And then after that officer makes a decision, it goes to a superior supervisor that also is going to review the decision and review your documents to see if it's in line with the law. So it's a 2-step review. And after that final review, then you'll get a decision. And once you get the decision, it's pretty quickly after that they have you come in and pick up your approval. So that's pretty much, in a nutshell, asylum. Of course, we didn't go into everything. It's half an hour, but I think we went into a lot of the meat and substances, or the areas that are sticky points for most people.
Absolutely. I think we're gonna have to, do another session. So we just don't want to take too much time. But the question I have, we have like 5 or 8 minutes of question.
Mm-hmm.
How much money do you have to make, in order to sponsor somebody? Like, if you want to sponsor somebody, how much? Like
for the humanitarian parole?
Right, like Tanti was talking about.
Oh, it all depends. There's a chart that you can pull up at any time, and it tells you the poverty guideline, right? And it all depends on how many people you have dependent on. So it's hard for me to say right now without knowing. But it's a nominal amount. For example, I think 14,000 is probably a family of 2. So and then it goes up incrementally. Family of 3, it's 20-something thousand. It's not extreme.
Okay.
But I understand, though, it can be difficult for immigrants at times, because a lot of times, myself, I'm an immigrant. When we migrate here initially, there's a assimilation process, and trying to find a job that suits you or that you're good at can take some time.
So usually, if you work, but you like work off the books, is there a particular, tax file that you have to fill out in order to?
It has to be, yeah. So if you're going to support someone, you have to produce tax documents. So if you're working off the books, it wouldn't apply. And I would suggest that if you're working off the books, I mean, I don't suggest lying to immigration because if if you've been here for 5, 10 years, there's no way any immigration officer is going to believe that you haven't worked off the book. So when you're filling out those applications, you should say, I've been working unauthorized. A lot of people are confused about that and they say, I should, yes, you should.
We should definitely encourage people to file their taxes, no matter, I mean, even if you're using tax ID or something.
I just realized my name on the Zoom is Larissa's. That's my assistant.
Right, absolutely. So,
I have a question.
Yes.
How long have you been doing immigration law?
Myself, okay, so I've been a lawyer since 2010 and I've been doing immigration since then. So 12,
And go ahead.
12 years.
Okay. And how percentage of your business is about green card?
I'm sorry, I didn't get the line.
And I say, what percentage of your business is about green card?
You mean immigration? So I do family and immigration. I would say it's pretty even split. It fluctuates depending on the market, but I do a lot of both.
When you say both, of family and immigration, right?
I do family law as well, and Maury knows this. Yes, I do. I handle divorces and custody and child support as well. Yeah. But I do immigration. Yes, I would say they're pretty equal. It depends though on the time. Like right now, why I wanted to touch on TPS or temporary protective status is because that's pretty hot right now. So right now, as far as immigration, I'm doing a lot of more immigration on those topics. And what TPS is, I'll give you a quick breakdown before we go off more. I'm sorry if I'm taking up more time. But TPS is temporary protective status, right? I don't know if anyone on this line is familiar with that.
Yes, we're familiar with TPS, yeah. I mean, the Liberian mostly, like since they come from war, so they have to apply for temporary protection.
So they use it. Okay. So, but I say that to say, to answer the question, yes, it depends on what's going on at a certain time. So right now, immigration, I'm focusing a lot on that because of what's going on in Ukraine and also Sudan. And also now there's been a recent designation for Cameroon. So Cameroon, Sudan, South Sudan, and Somalia are the African countries that are granted TPS at the moment.
Absolutely. We have like 3 minutes, and if you cut off, we're just gonna try to do another time.
So 3 minutes. I can answer some questions quickly.
Mori, I have a question, but mine is not concerning asylum, but my question based on parents who have grown-up kids like 21, and if the child can sponsor the parent.
Yes.
Yes. But yeah, because I know they were talking about
American citizen and they're 20. Yes, they can file.
They're 21, and yeah, because in our community we have a lot of undocumented parents that have grown-up kids now. So I wanted to know. I think lately they say there were some changes about it. They changed some rules. I don't know.
Yeah, you can still do this. You can still adjust status. I recently filed one just a few days ago.
Okay, like if you can probably after we reconnect, maybe if you can probably explain a little bit how that one works. Also,
I can explain it right now. It's just like any adjustment of status. If you were to marry someone, it's similar. You file an adjustment of status, but in this particular instance, it's adjusting because of your immediate relative, a child. So it's the same process as if you were to be married. Fill out all the documents. Go ahead.
Be 21 or 18?
21.
21. I know that part.
Okay.
But how about income-wise, for example? The income-wise, does the child have to have income too?
No.
Something like that? Okay.
No, the child doesn't have to do the affidavit. So the one I just did, that child is over 21, but they say
Keep watching.